I would love to ask, because you did do your studies in Switzerland. And so how do you think about incorporating elements of Indian culture and heritage into your expressive art practice?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a very, very important question that I'm dealing with currently as well. Since a lot of my training has been in classical Indian and folk dances of India, there is this question that arises that how can these two sort of pathways merge and where can there be intersections? I don't think I've fully explored it just yet. It's still it's a question that I'm still sitting with. But there's definitely this idea of decolonizing. Expressive arts therapy currently is very Eurocentric. But now that there are various cultures that are coming in and doing the masters with the people that essentially coined the term expressive arts therapy. Now, this is the first generation of people that ever started expressive arts therapy. There has been a lot of conversations about how can different cultures bring in their own flavors. And so when I went to Switzerland for my master's, we were about 36 countries that were there. And it was a rich bed of cultures that came from various corners of the world and how the arts and creativity have impacted them in their respective cultures. And I remember we were two Indians that were graduating last year and we were giving our exam presentations. The world looked at us and went like, it seems that if you've got to really immerse yourself in creativity and in art forms and in movement, then you've got to be in India. And I was like, yes. And I forget how rich the Indian culture is. Like, it's incredible the things that we get to see in a span of like this entire country and how varied and diverse our clothing, our food, and we know this, but when it's looked from an external gaze, there's a deep sense of reverence for what I had when I was growing up in this country. So there's definitely this idea of how can we start decolonizing something. And I think as peers, me and my colleague, and now we have more people that are doing the masters, that this is a question that we sit with. We still haven't really, none of us have still really figured out what that could look like in our practices. But I'm hoping that the more time we spend with this question, the more we're going to arrive at something that feels true to us. In the masters, in my thesis, although there was this sense of, so when I spoke about community work and systems, I was looking at a lot of cultural Indian contexts like Garba, like these folk dances that happen in Gujarat. And a lot of the text that I was viewing on the internet was surprisingly done by the West researchers about Indian folk dances like Garba, which is a community form. And I remember feeling angry about it, that where are my texts? Where are the people from, that have been researching this in our country? And so there was this need to reach out to people that are dancers in the country and see if they have text available. And most of the text was in regional languages, which I needed to then translate. And I was like, I'm okay to do this work, but I'd rather quote people that are scholars of this field and that are in the context of India, rather than having someone from the West trying to understand Burma. And not that I'm taking away anything from the research that they must have done, but there was just this sense of, no, I need to hear and represent voices of my culture. And although it was a little difficult, I did try to do that. And I think a lot of us now from India are doing that with the masters. I have another colleague that's now writing her thesis, and she's doing similar things with Navras, and how the 9 emotions that is written in the Natya Shastra, which is a book of theatre and dance in India from millennia before, speaks about these 9 emotions. And can those 9 emotions be templates for our work in therapy? And how can that influence our work in therapy? So I'm interested in her thesis as well, and it should be done in the next 2 months. But yeah, I think now we're beginning to sort of sit with this question and act upon it a little.
Thank you for tuning in to the Reframe series. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. Stay connected with us on Instagram and LinkedIn at Rethink Desi for the latest updates.